harder than us. They were more ready to play than we were, and obviously jumped on us in the first half. We were not ready for it, and obviously it starts with me. I need to do a better job making sure we're ready to go and making sure that we understand what's in front of us. Obviously, this is a very good team that we played tonight, 3-1 in the league.
Gators will stay at home and regroup before their Saturday game against Texas. It's 57 degrees at 11:59. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
Hey! This is Helmets and Heels
On 1010XL, switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
There was a very important birthday that I totally missed yesterday, and I feel terrible because without this person, we would not have a show. 1010XL would not have the Jaguars. Happy belated 90th birthday to one Wayne Weaver.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yesterday,
I was going to say, RJ's birthday was last week, so I was like, man, did RJ have a second birthday already? Did you turn 30 again, RJ? But yes, happy birthday to
RJ
Wayne.
created helmets today.
RJ was certainly a mastermind behind the show. But yeah, we wouldn't have this show if we didn't have the Jaguars, certainly as an NFL city. 1010XL wouldn't have the Jaguars as the flagship station because there would be no Jaguars, and that's all due to Wayne Weaver, his wife Dolores, and certainly the long-standing history that Jacksonville has in as far as loving the sport of football. But the Weavers are one of the main primary reasons that we have a team, and so happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday.
I meant to say happy birthday to him yesterday, and then I forgot, and now I feel, like I said, I feel terrible. All right, so we do know that the Jaguars have interviewed 5 different people thus far. Robert Saleh, the latest yesterday. I believe that Brian Flores will interview this Friday, the Vikings defensive coordinator, but still no Liam Cohen on the schedule. Is that correct?
We're working to confirm that. So
Okay.
I'm hoping to have that sooner rather than later. I wasn't sure where you saw about Brian Flores.
I saw that. John Shipley reported that on Sports Illustrated.
Okay. Got you. Yes, as did Albert Breer. So, yes, Friday. Cool. I found it interesting that we haven't heard any outside of Brian Flores. That there hasn't been, outside of, we knew Robert Saleh yesterday. We know that there is still Todd Monken, Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, all 3 of those individuals still alive in the postseason with their current teams, Liam Cohen. And the fact that between the 4 of those gentlemen and Brian Flores, who did technically still had a team in playoff contention Monday until late in the evening, it's rather fascinating that comparatively to last week where we had this transparent process of like, all right, here we go. Here's so-and-so's interviews on these days. The fact that it is now Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we still, outside of that one interview, haven't heard about those other gentlemen. Now, I think a lot of that, and I've said this to a couple people over the last 24 hours, and they don't want to hear it, but I think it's reality. Look, NFL agents, Shad Khan, general managers, if Trent Baalke's in the interview, I don't know if he is or he isn't. They're people too. And these coaches technically are still employed by teams that are playing for their playoff lives. And so my vantage point of this is they were still waiting to hear from those candidates who are on teams that are still alive for what their schedule looks like. And then you try to curtail those virtual interviews with those coordinators around that, and you fill in those who've been eliminated. But now Brian Flores having an interview on Friday says to me, okay, well, are you knocking out Joe Brady, Kellen Moore on Saturday? Is Todd Monken on a Wednesday or today, tomorrow? And so, it's rather fascinating how quiet it's been this week compared to last week.
I mean, props to the coaches. Like we mentioned it yesterday, Lauren, about Ben Johnson, like juggling, worrying about a playoff game, a divisional playoff game, also doing all of these virtual interviews with everybody. And who knows what else is going on in life and normal, just day-to-day things, and juggling all of that at one time. Because it'd be hard for me personally, if what you are worried about right now as a coach is getting your team to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Like that is your main goal at that point. And that's the reason Ben Johnson stayed in Detroit last year, is because that's his goal, and he felt that Detroit was close to making that happen, and now they're a few games away from making it happen. So I feel like you'd almost want him later, because if you're like, are you getting the full on Ben Johnson interview if he's worried about a game in a few days?
Yeah, you wish that the process could go like this. You don't get to interview anyone whose team is still in the playoffs until that team's season is over, as far as for their sake.
Yeah.
For your sake, obviously, you want to talk to them
Right
as
away.
many times as you can. Yeah, in the time frame that you can, or as long as you can in the time frame that you can.
Some people haven't had a coach in 2 months, 3 months.
Some people, yeah, that's true. Robert Saleh, well, he went to another team, but as far as he hasn't been a head coach, in quite some time. I think that the Jags are going through their process the way that Shad originally envisioned it, and that is to talk to. We originally thought it was going to be 8 people. He expanded it to 10 people. Talk to those 10 people. Mia, you said you don't know if Trent Baalke's in the interviews. I guess none of us do. If Trent's not in the interviews, then he should have already been fired.
Yes,
If Shad is not bringing in Trent in these initial interviews, then why is he still
right?
have
And
a
that's
job?
why I anticipate he is. But now knowing the information that we've heard from Albert Breer, that we've heard from a couple other national insiders who have suggested,
Benjamin Albright too,
right, that have suggested that even if Trent's in the interviews, much like a press conference last week in which Shad Khan was asked about Trent Baalke while Trent Baalke was on the said Zoom, it appears that at least a couple of these candidates are very much taking the Mia O'Brien approach and literally saying, would you be open to changing the general manager, as the general manager is literally sitting right there? And I applaud them if they are indeed actually doing that and forcing Shad Khan to evaluate the situation, even if, by all accounts, from the last time we heard from him publicly, he's already made his decision. And Trent Baalke's not only collaborating in leading this search, but that's his eyes and ears.
Yeah, all of it is a little weird to me. And I mentioned this last week when we were talking, and the word dysfunction comes to mind because, to your point, Lauren, if Trent Baalke is not in these meetings, and like we said, we do not know, if he is not, then why is he here? And also, no offense, but I'm not quite sure I trust the hirings of Shad Khan at this point when it comes to coaching staff and people he wants around, because there's a guy in the building still around that shouldn't be here. And so I don't love that. I don't love I get that it gives you hope that, okay, if Ben Johnson comes in and says, can we reevaluate Trent Baalke because this isn't someone I want to work with. I want to bring in my own people. I think that does give hope that you'd get Ben, but I think it makes your organization look messy because you're sitting there and saying, I'm not going to fire this guy on my own, even though everybody in the world has said that this is a problem, and clearly it's been a problem because he's been through 6 head coaches and now is picking the 3rd time in the top 5 in 5 years. But a guy that comes in and it's his first week in the organization, I'll let him make the decision that this guy can go.
So last night on Hacker After Dark, he had on Jason Cole, who's a selector for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and they talked about Trent Baalke and what exactly has gone on here and in previous stops.
But I heard weeks ago that Trent was doing everything in the world he could to backstab anyone he could to make sure that he survived. And when I was told that by somebody within the organization, I thought, well, that's going to have to get back to Shad, and that he would dismiss him, but he didn't.
And the answer to that is because who's the only person who has a immediate line to Shad Khan?
Trent.
Yeah.
Besides Tony, his son.
Right. And
Trent's also
didn't
close to Tony.
Didn't we say that it wasn't supposed to be that Doug did because that was the whole,
he was supposed to.
We're going to change the order. And they're like, that was supposed to be the order.
Right. So
We've just been being lied to.
Right. Well, so here's the problem, Taylor. So the problem is yes, both Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke reported to Shad Khan. Yes, they both had a direct line. They both also went 2+ weeks without speaking to the owner when the owner missed at least one road game that I know of, had to leave at halftime of a home game, and bolted after the Jets game.
By the way, I think Shad didn't talk to Doug. I think Trent and Shad were having lots of conversations off the record at that point in time.
And Trent was
that's my guess, because
right.
how
and you
does
could be
one
right.
stay, one go?
And Trent was lying.
Well, that's what this backstabbing is what he's
and
saying.
Trent was lying to people because anyone you talk to in that building who either formerly was employed by the Jaguars or is currently employed by the Jaguars, they told me then, and they would tell you now, they were under the impression, because every time they went to Trent and said, really? You have no inkling? You haven't talked to him? And he would say the same thing that Doug did, which is, haven't talked to him.
Yeah.
Haven't talked to him. And
I believe that Doug hadn't
Bingo.
talked to him.
Bingo.
I don't believe that Trent hadn't talked to him.
Correct.
Yeah,
I think Trent was telling Shad things, and backstabbing is certainly a strong phrase, Taylor.
Yeah.
But I think Trent was saying to Shad all the different reasons why he should stay and Doug should go.
Yep.
And I guess Doug should have been doing that, but
Yeah, he should have been in the office also.
he just didn't realize that was going on.
Well, and that's what I said when the Walker Little extension happened. I said that on this show that this is Trent's way of being like, I've done things right, but look what I'm doing. Like, I got Walker Little, and now I'm giving an extension to Walker Little. Oh, and I brought Eric Armstead in. It's their fault that he's not playing in the right position. Oh, and I drafted Brian Thomas Jr. I know he was in there saying all those things. The problem is this team's too predictable. That's why. It's all the coaching. It's nothing I've done. It's not that I brought Gabe Davis and Ronald Darby, one of the worst corners in the league this year, in here. All of these other things that I've done. Look at these few that I've done, and let me sprinkle this in. And that's what people have this mindset. They call him a snake. They call him a backstabber. Why is that somebody you want in your organization? I just don't get it.
Because Shad doesn't view him as those things.
Right.
That's the disconnect between what all of us think and hear and have been told, and then what Shad thinks.
I hate that I'm about to say this, and I say this with respect to both of those individuals. Does Shad Khan really know who Walker Little is?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's Trent's way of protecting himself.
Right.
Like,
I
found you another left tackle.
I think
he knows
he does,
his name.
because
is he
he
saying,
had
he
to-
allowed 3 pressures last week? No, Shad Khan is not having
Unless
that
Trent fed it to him, just like
Yeah.
the predictable
Look at
offense.
these numbers.
But he
Right.
knows because he had to fork over more money for this person,
Yeah.
so he had to agree
No, but it's
to
just a
it.
check, Lauren. At this point in time, he's willing to sign the checks. That's why so many candidates are like, hey, even if Trent's still here, I'll still sign up to do the interview because he's just writing checks.
It's that relationship when everybody's had these in their lives, when everybody around, your friends, your family, are like, this person's not good for you. You need to break this off, but you're so trapped into this like manipulation that they've had cast upon you, and it looks like Trent Baalke does that to everywhere he goes.
Yeah, don't marry that person.
Yeah.
And for the here and now, it seems like Shad and Trent are betrothed. By the way, when I do want to get to some positive news on the other side, Benjamin Solak had an NFL All-Rookie team. I want to read to you. You can tell which Jaguar, you can predict which Jaguar is going to be on that. But I want to read to you what he says about Brian Thomas Jr. because I feel like we need to be uplifted a little bit around here. Also, a little bit later, we will debate our NFL Coach of the Year. You are listening to Helmets and Heels. It is 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Sports radio is.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. You have to walk through it.
1010XL.
AA Automotive helps keep your vehicle in dependable and safe condition. Call Sam, Harry, or Joe, and they'll check your brakes, tires, fluids, electric, and motor, so your ride runs smooth on the road. That's AA Automotive on Richard Street.
Why buy from Hodges Mazda at the Avenues? Because they strive to ensure a satisfying and comfortable car buying experience. And now they are giving back. Lauren Brooks here. Hodges Mazda wants to say thank you to all educators, first responders, and healthcare providers by offering a complimentary oil change and car wash. Simply call them today or schedule online at HodgesMazda.com. This is all part of the Hodges Mazda difference. Come experience it for yourself. Visit them online at HodgesMazda.com. Free oil change not to exceed $79.99. Excludes diesel vehicles. Expires January 31st, 2025. See dealer for complete details.
Mia here for MyBookie. It's win or go home. The NFL playoffs are the ticket to the biggest game of the year, and all roads lead to New Orleans. The NCAA playoffs will set the stage, but this is your chance to get in on every high-stakes moment along the way. Your road to New Orleans starts now with MyBookie. MyBookie is the ultimate destination for bettors who want more, whether you're betting the underdogs or riding with the favorites. Every drive, every touchdown, every moment is an opportunity to win big. Kick off your 2025 right with risk-free Thursdays. Place a bet, and if it doesn't hit, MyBookie has your back. Dive into the Bet Boost tab to supercharge your picks and build that bankroll before the big game. And when the games are over, the action does not stop, folks. MyBookie's online casino keeps the excitement going 24/7. Blackjack, roulette, slots, it's all there. Whether you're celebrating a big win or gearing up for the next round. Haven't joined yet? Now's the time. Use promo code 1010XL on your first deposit, and MyBookie will hook you up with an instant bonus because you deserve to start the year off right.
Homeowners, listen up. It's time to start fresh in 2025. Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here to help take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payments and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans, starting in the low 5s APR. If your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much. Even if you're in process with another lender, call Loan Pronto now. Lock in at a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It's fast, easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call now, 904-999-1508, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS, consumeraccess.org.
It's a Helmets and Heels Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
Are you an experienced chiller technician and looking for a role where your skills are truly valued? It's time to make the move to Local 234, plumbers, pipe fitters, and HVAC technicians. You'll get top pay, comprehensive health and welfare benefits for your family, and a pension that doesn't come out of your pocket. Join the team that's got your back. Local 234, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit UA234.com to send your resume today.
Equal opportunity employer.
When you head out for a night with friends or going to the big game, don't forget the best game plan to win the night is to designate a driver and guarantee a safe ride home. Hydrating between buds is the best play you can make. Bud Light, reminding all to drink wiser.
Good teachers and coaches get the most out of their scholar athletes. That's why 1010XL salutes the Scholar Athlete of the Week.
Brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
And the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local Union 234.
Wednesdays on The Franchi Show.
Attention golfers, Hidden Hills Golf Club is an attractive destination for golfers all over the Southeast. You too will enjoy our classic Arnold Palmer design that will test your game and keep you coming back. Book a tee time at hiddenhillsgc.com.
D1 Training East Jacksonville invites you to their mega NFL football camp at the Bowl School February 1st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Ages 7 through 16. Get hands-on coaching from former NFL players at every single station. The coaches lineup put together by Connor and Sam at D1 is proudly sponsored by Tim Tebow. To sign up, call 904-901-6470.
Joe C. for Blossman Gas. They've been providing hometown service and the comforts of propane to home and businesses since 1951. Imagine movie night spent around glowing gas fireplace logs, cookouts in the backyard with your propane grill, or laundry done faster with your gas dryer. Blossman has a wide variety of gas appliances to fit your needs. Propane delivery, gas appliances, and a full-service team. Blossman Gas is your local company for everything propane. Blossman Gas, log on, blossmangas.com, and check out the Blossman difference.
Need extra cash for the holidays? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn is always buying guns, musical instruments, surfboards, and tools, and pays cash money. Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacks Beach. Online at beachesjewelryandpawn.com.
Happy New Year, sports fans. Hicken here, and let's keep the skincare talk going while we ring in the new year. You know it's winter, a little cold outside. That sun is still shining, so let's always be reminded to take care of our skin. Beaches Dermatology now has a new location open in Fernandina. So if you live just a little north of Duval, you can now see the pros at Beaches Dermatology without having to make the drive to Jack's. Go online to beachesdermatology.com to book your skincare appointment today. That's beachesdermatology.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
What did we just learn off of the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, Taylor?
Oh, so this year somebody texted in and thank you to let me get the number so I can say a proper thank you. I don't have the name, but 449 said, for what it's worth, 2025, the Chinese animal is the snake. If you missed the last segment, we were talking about the nicknames that people around the league call Trent Baalke.
Yikes is all I have to say about that. All right, so Benjamin Solak of ESPN, he put out his NFL all-rookie team. No surprise, the quarterback is Jaden Daniels. But one of the receivers, and the first receiver he has listed, is Brian Thomas Jr., and here's what he has to say about our number 7. The player who long felt like the addendum to the big 3 of the 2024 rookie wide receiver class is no longer. Thomas has been better than Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. Long, ridiculously fast, and excellent at tracking the football through contact, Thomas is a walking big play, coming either on a deep target or with a huge run after the catch. Thomas's 22.15 mile per hour top speed on this touchdown against the Colts in week 5 per NFL Next Gen Stats was the fastest time for any ball carrier this season not named Kevontae Turpin. And Turpin, oh, by the way, is a 153-pound former track star.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. is 205 pounds. Thomas ended the season with 2.61 yards per route run on a lame duck offense. That's one of my favorite parts about it. Splitting time between Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones at quarterback. Only 5 rookies have had better debut seasons. And again, that is with splitting time between Trevor and Mac. A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham Jr., Puka Nacua, and Jamar Chase. I just had to uplift us with that, with all of that.
I mean, I think that is obviously one of the biggest positives out of this season as a whole. It kind of sucks that the way this season went, though, because it is kind of diminishing that his production for a lot of people, because I think people were expecting Trevor Lawrence, he just signed a contract to have his big breakout year, and they were talking so much about this offense with Kirk and with Evan and now with BTJ and with all of these pieces that they've added, and, you know, year 2 of Tank, and, you know, you've already had Press and Trevor, so they're more comfortable with each other, and all of these things. Like, this was supposed to be one of the offenses in the NFL that we were talking about in better sense, and so it should have been Brian Thomas Jr. that we were talking about than maybe some of those other higher ones, because those higher ones were going to complete disaster teams that had new quarterbacks or were trying to figure stuff out, or coaches were being fired. And it sucks that the way the season went. But you have to say, despite of everything, or I guess in spite of everything, Brian Thomas Jr. being able to do what he's done this season, and especially with Mac Jones, has been incredible. And it's so much fun to watch. So if you want to take any hope from the season, that is one of the biggest pieces of light that you can take.
And that's why he's the other carrot that's dangling to whoever the next head coach is.
Right. Not just Trevor Lawrence.
And I think that's big, because we heard from 2 national reporters last week, even if I think they're in a different camp than many of the sub 40 crowd, that there are questions about Trevor Lawrence. We couldn't get any names of candidates who have questions about Trevor Lawrence from either of those friends of the program. But yes, there's more questions about him now than there were going into year 2, when year 1 basically wasn't even a thing because of Urban Meyer. Sure, because you have to wonder, is it a chicken or the egg situation? Most people lean towards his lack of production this year was A, because of injuries, and B, because of the offensive structure that was antiquated that he was forced to work within. But the idea of having a player who, let's be real, is from the same mold of the top 2 wide receivers, depending on who you ask in the National Football League, and not just because they all went to the same school, but that says, okay, if they've got this guy who we know is going to succeed in a modern NFL offense because logic and trajectory and history suggests it, coupled with a quarterback who we still believe in, we got some pieces here that we don't have in Las Vegas, that we don't have in New Orleans.
At the end of the day, Brian Thomas Jr., as Trevor Lawrence said, he's the bright spot for the season, like you were saying too, Taylor. I can only imagine what's going through Trevor's mind at this point in time, aside from taking care of his daughter and all that stuff. But when it comes to the playbook for next season and the new offensive mind that's going to be here, how many ways does he want to design to get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr.? Because the teams down the stretch knew that was pretty much the Jags' only weapon. Yeah. And yet they were able to get the ball to him. We've seen teams double team other team's best receiver, right? Their opponent's best receiver. And so therefore that leaves someone else open. That's what teams did. And Brian Thomas Jr. still got the ball because he's so good against some of the NFL's best.
Yeah, and I do think we have to give credit to guys like Parker Washington, because he stepped up big late, too.
Yeah, Britton Strange as well.
And Britton Strange, both of those guys. So I do think that Mac started forming these, which maybe makes sense, because Mac was practicing with the second string, second, third strings a lot in the offseason. So he did have a lot of time with Brenton Strange and Parker Washington. So maybe those relationships were a little more developed already than maybe they were with Trevor, because Trevor's working with the ones. And so I do think that maybe that factored in a little bit. But you've got to give credit to those guys because, yes, you weren't winning a lot of football games, but in a time when you lost all of your top weapons and your quarterback, you were still able to get some production out of a Parker Washington and a Brenton Strange and a rookie wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr.
I haven't thought all the way through it yet, but who do you think is the Jaguars' backup quarterback in 2025?
Yeah.
It's not Mac Jones.
And I don't think it's CJ Beathard either. I think it depends on who the head coach is. I've seen, depending on who the head coach is, I've seen some names floated, all of which would come through free agency. I do think you'll see the Jaguars probably draft somebody on day 3 just because the John Rice Plumlee experiment on the practice squad and what's his face who went to Brown. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Who's the backup quarterback in 2022, the third stringer? I'm blanking on his name. He bounced between the Texans and the Jags. Those projects were fun.
Yeah.
Certainly we love the Maple Minshew. Shout out to Nathan Rourke. But I think
John Wolford too.
Yeah, John Wolford as well, who signed midseason with the Jaguars practice squad. But I think there's something to... And John Wolford may be a name that sticks around for all we know, for what it's worth, because he did start a playoff game. People forget.
E.J. Perry, by the way.
E.J. Perry, yes. I think that we are approaching a point where even if the Jaguars go out and, let's say, extend John Wolford and keep him here in Jacksonville, they go out and they sign Marcus Mariota in free agency. They go out and they sign Kyle Trask to be the backup. They will still draft someone on day 3 to get them in the pipeline and say, hey, you're going to be a project, but we need to be developing projects just in case of emergency.
I can tell you right here, right now, if the Jaguars signed Kyle Trask, there would be a faction of this fan base that would say it's going to be a true competition at quarterback between Kyle Trask and Trevor Lawrence.
Who's never played an actual, meaningful regular season
has
snap.
played, really in the preseason only. And I'm not saying that's
happening.
That's correct. I'm just saying that is going to happen because I know Gator fans.
Oh, yeah. We saw that with Tebow at tight end here. But it was funny because when I did the final watch party for that last game of the Jag season, and I was walking around just talking to people, mingling a little bit, and there were some Bucs fans outside. So I stopped and I was talking to them a little bit about their season and Baker and whatever. And it was funny because I was like, Baker looks really good this season. And they were both like, yeah, we're Florida fans. We really wanted Kyle Trask to start. And I was like, you guys are insane. Like, you are insane. But
we're
do any
a
of these
special
names,
breed, okay?
Do any of these names flash to you? Because obviously Sam Darnold is going to be one of the hotter topics. Like, how much
won't be the backup.
how much is somebody going to pay him? How much did this game affect what he gets? That'll be a conversation.
Sidebar, our friends at Score North. I just took a little brief trip down their timeline this morning just because they do amazing content and today is their 6-year anniversary. And the sentiments surrounding this was the best possible thing for the Vikings that Sam Darnold just
they might get him a little cheaper now.
Either cheaper or it's a shorter, 1 year. Either you tag him or you can say, well, it's a 2-year.
Yeah.
It's Baker money, but it's a 2-year.
Yeah, I totally disagree. The best thing for them would be for Sam Darnold to have won the Super Bowl and then have to figure out the quarterback situation.
Because then you can flip J.J. McCarthy probably for a first or a second, and then you recoup the assets that, wait for it, you traded away almost entirely to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah. I still do think there was a lot of Vikings fans that wanted McCarthy so much that they were kind of hoping, like, you never want your team to lose, but they were like, watching this on a weekly basis, is it really what you want for the next 5-10 years? And I don't think a lot of Vikings fans were in that mindset. But outside of that, so the free agent quarterbacks for 2025, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, Drew Lock, Jarrett Stidham, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston. Let's bring Jameis.
No, thank you.
I'd love it. Taylor and I would be like, taking the flag, running down. Look, ultimately,
Justin Fields I would love, but they're not. The Jags are not.
Jameis Winston's won games in the NFL. I mean, come on now.
Yes, he has. But
in the words,
he's the best backup quarterback.
What about a lock? Would you take somebody like a lock or
Drew Lock would be fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind Taylor Heineke, just because I think both of those guys know that they're coming here 100% to be backups.
Yeah,
and
you definitely want that situation.
Yeah.
Jameis
still believes he's an NFL starter,
and so does obviously Justin Fields. And some of those names on there, you are going to want to bring someone in who isn't thinking in the back of their mind like, oh, I still have a chance to make it as a starting quarterback. You want someone who's kind of like, I know my role in the NFL at this point.
Right, and Andy Dalton might be good for that, although he has started somewhat recently, obviously, this season, and because of Bryce Young. Mia, you mentioned one thing, and I wanted to bring this up before we get to our NFL Coach of the Year debate on the other side, to remind people that the Jaguars this upcoming draft do not have draft picks from the Vikings due to the Cam Robinson trade. Those do not take effect until 2026. The Jaguars have 2 picks from the Minnesota Vikings for the Brian Thomas Jr. trade.
Correct.
And then 1 pick from the Travis Gibson trade to the Seahawks.
Correct, yes. But ultimately, the Jaguars have the most picks over the next 2 years of any.
Well, 10 picks this year.
Right. They have the most picks of any team over the next 2 years. And again, much of their draft capital has come from one team in the next 2-year span. And that irony is not lost on me. The Minnesota Vikings currently in line for 1 first-round pick, a 3rd-round comp pick, a 2 fifths. One is a trade from the Browns, and the other one is their own. So that's 4 picks in this upcoming NFL draft. And the Jaguars, of course, have 10 picks this upcoming NFL draft. I won't look ahead to the next year, but point being,
a couple in the next year as well.
It's just funny when you look at the layout and you see lots of purple next to the Jaguars' teal picks, of which they own the rights to on their own.
Yeah, this year, pick number 94, which comes in the 3rd round, that's from Minnesota. And then also pick number 131 in the 4th round, also from Minnesota. The one from Seattle comes at pick 192, round 6. Maybe the Jags will get another Tom Brady. Just kidding. All right, when we return, we will get it to our NFL Coach of the Year candidates who we think should win. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010X on 92.5 FM.
It's New Year's resolution time, like fixing that leaky faucet, unplugging that drain, or getting your AC ready for the summer. Start the year off right with Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. Call us today at 904-862-6769. Because when you're stuck, call the Duck.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. Before termites attack your home or business and cause costly damage, Terminix it. At Terminix, they know how to stop termites, and they did that at my house. These destructive pests may have been around for millions of years, but before they show up, so does Terminix. And their time is up. Don't live with a termite problem. I certainly didn't want to. Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com.
This is Tony Baselli, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I was known for protecting our quarterback. These days, I'm extending that protection to a different arena, your home. I have partnered with Heritage Roofing of North Florida, your premier local roofers with over 25 years of experience. Heritage is your go-to roofer for hurricane preparation, with same-day inspections and estimates. They also work with all insurance companies. Let Heritage Roofing of North Florida safeguard your home and family. Visit heritagenfl.com for your free estimate today.
State license CCC 1335410.
Mia here for Dreamfinders Homes. For a limited time to ring in the new year, Dreamfinders Homes is offering an amazing 4.99% fixed interest rate. Now is your chance to lock down the rate and get in the game. You heard me right. A 4.99 fixed interest rate on select move-in ready homes. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for sales event information and get in the game. Interest rate available on select move-in ready homes. Restrictions and limitations apply. Go to dreamfindershomes.com for more details.
Hey, poker fans! The Best Bet Winter Open Series returns to Best Bet Jacksonville from January 23rd to February 2nd. Satellites into the $1,500 main event kick off January 4th. Take your shot at big payouts with 8 action-packed events and $500,000 in guarantees. Visit bestbetjacks.com for more details. That's bestbetjacks.com. And we'll see you at the Winter Open starting January 23rd.
Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
Helmets and Heels.
Collisions happen on every play in football. Collisions also happen every day on the road. If you need auto body repair, from a $30 job to a $30,000 job, trust San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
SportsForecaster.com has all the data you need to project tomorrow's winners. Register for free and track the performance of all your favorite players and teams, including all your fantasy team picks and prospects. Sports Forecaster has the most detailed player profiles on the web. Precise depth charts, every transaction, every injury, every news update. No ranting or raving, no preening or barstool bluster. At SportsForecaster.com, you get the timely info you need for every game. SportsForecaster.com. Sign up for free today.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On January 15, 1965, one of the biggest trades in NBA history took place. The San Francisco Warriors sent NBA legend Wilt Chamberlain to the Philadelphia 76ers.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Multi-unit hair grafting is now available at IHRS and can give you 3 times more hair in one procedure over a traditional hair transplant.
Multi-unit hair grafting gave me more hair in one procedure and within my budget.
You can grow your hair back with this exclusive new procedure. Call for a free evaluation. Call IHRS 904-777-IHRS 777-IHRS 777-4477.
Everybody, Mike Dempsey with a question here. Was your goal to lose weight this new year? If so, are you already down 18 pounds? That's a serious question because I dropped 18 pounds in my first 3 weeks alone with Awaken 180 weight loss. That's how fast the weight can fall off when you choose the solution for weight loss. Each week, you look at the scale and the number goes down and down. Every morning you wake up, you feel better and better. For me, I love that instant feedback of knowing that Awaken 180 was working for me on a daily basis, experiencing those results. And given how easy Awaken 180 was, there was no way I wouldn't reach my goal. And I did. 25 pounds total thanks to Awaken 180, and I've kept the weight off since. The only weight loss program I know that puts their money where their mouth is. They're so confident in your success, they offer free support for life. A one-time investment in yourself for a lifetime of benefits online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text PEC to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text PEC to 321-321. That's PEC to 321-321.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale Lighting, Fans, and Home Decor on 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. We had our NFL MVP debate last week, and I saw these NFL MVP picks by state, according to Twitter, and I had to get a chuckle out of it. Josh Allen, 25 states believe that Josh Allen's the MVP. Lamar Jackson, 22 states. Saquon Barkley, 1 state, Pennsylvania. Jared Goff, 1 state, Michigan. And Joe Burrow, 1 state, Ohio. So they did get a little love.
That makes sense.
Just not all that much. All right, speaking of debates, let's get it to our coach of the year in the NFL. Mia, you can go first. You have Kevin O'Connell, who, again, the voting for all of this happens before the wild card weekend in the NFL. So the votes for him certainly were well in before the Vikings kind of fell on their face against the Rams on Monday night. But Kevin O'Connell, certainly terrific season. And I think, honestly, part of your argument can be look at what he had at quarterback in Sam Darnold, and they were still able to win 14 games in the regular season.
Look at what he did with Sam Darnold, yes, but also, Lauren, look at what he's done in 3 years as the Minnesota Vikings head coach. I want to go year by year because that says to me all you need to know about where that franchise could have been this year and where it is. So 13-4. His first season up in Minneapolis, and a lot of folks were quick to note, well, they were 11-0 in one-score games. The ball can't possibly bounce your way every single time. Stick a pin in that. We're going to circle back to it. Last year, despite losing Kirk Cousins to an Achilles tear midway through the season and plenty of other injuries, 7-10 a season ago. Not great, but at the same time, in what we now believe to be, if not the best division in football, one of the best divisions in football, still an impressive mark. And then this season, 14-3, second place in that aforementioned division. And once again, the one-score games. At some point or another, we are going to have to embrace the stat that Taylor Dahl has been preaching for months now. All time, this isn't just among current head coaches. Kevin O'Connell has the third best winning percentage, minimum of 25 games coached, for one-score games in NFL history, according to Elias Sports.
That's good.
A 72.7% winning percentage. At some point in time, we have to accept that once upon a time in 2022, that was with Kirk Cousins. Last year, half of it was with Kirk Cousins. This year was with Sam Darnold. He's just a good coach.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And I think what's even more impressive, number one, when they mic'd him up, the second to last game of the regular season, and they showcased it during the Sunday Night Football game against the Lions, his coaching style, how he's praising Sam Darnold. He's saying, hey, I need you to do this, but I believe in you. You're the man. And he said, I think my quarterback, I think any of my players would tell you I talk too much, but I want to balance instruction with positive praise. And I think that in of itself is coaching in 2025. I also think, let's be real, would Brian Flores be getting head coaching interviews? Would he be considered, despite suing the National Football League, as the head coach in multiple locales? If not for, yes, what his defense did this year. But let's be real, Kevin O'Connell being a massive part in that renaissance of Flores. And we'll give Mike Tomlin his flowers as well, because certainly he did spend a year in Tomlin rehab last season in Pittsburgh. But I do think Kevin O'Connell has opened up a different side of Brian Flores that has made him a potential candidate, let alone making Sam Darnold a functional 14-win quarterback.
Absolutely. And look, Sam Darnold is a guy, we just talked about him. His future is so up in the air because of the last two games. But if you had literally stopped the NFL season before the final two games, he might have been like one of the highest paid quarterbacks in this free agency period, thanks to a guy like Kevin O'Connell. All right, let's switch gears to Taylor's guy. You have one Dan Campbell. How many kneecaps will you be biting in his defense?
I do want to also feel, this is a little side note on the Vikings. Like, I feel like we may need to give more credit to the Vikings organization as a whole, because through time, even with Zimmer, they've only had 2 losing seasons during all the time that Mike Zimmer was there and all of the time now that Kevin O'Connell was there. And that's pretty crazy to say. And this is in a division that they weren't winning the division a lot because the Green Bay Packers were, but they had a lot of seasons where they were 8, 9, 10, 11 wins in that time with multiple coaches. And that's with guys like Case Keenum and this revolving door of quarterbacks, honestly, during Mike Zimmer's time. So I do want to give a shout out. I think we don't say enough about how the Vikings organization have hired and built and drafted and done all of those things right. But my argument is going to be Dan Campbell. I think that Dan Campbell is the epitome of what you want a coach to be. He is that aggressive, hard-nosed, let's go out there and go for all of the fourth downs and go for all, even if it's 4th and 8 in your own territory, we're going to do it because I'm that confident in my players and my players are that confident in me. But he also has the emotional side. And when we were talking last week about the identity of teams and what the identity of the Chiefs is and what the identity of the Jags or lack of identity of the Jags are, and I use the word emotional for the Lions because you see that in Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is the first one to be screaming and yelling and angry at a player for screwing something up if they get a dumb penalty, which we saw late in this season. But then he's also the first one to cry on the podium when he feels like he let the team down in certain aspects. We saw it with Amon-Ra. He's made multiple comments. I've seen him get emotional in press conferences, and that bleeds through what Dan Campbell teaches this team. And I think it's really cool to see players get so on board with the coach. And I do think that you have to point out, obviously, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn both getting eyes for head coaching jobs. So that does have a say in it. But just when we were talking to Jeremy Reisman yesterday, he made the comment that before Ben Johnson, in between that, Dan Campbell was calling offensive plays, and that offense was still functioning like you would want it to function, a high-powering offense that they've been. But they can be this high-powering, fancy offense and still be this tough, gritty-nosed team as a whole, and I think that's really hard to kind of find the balance between both of those, and they've found a way to do it. I also think that when you see just overall him taking the Detroit Lions, who organizationally have been a hot disaster, hot mess, like a lot of losing seasons. We talk about no playoff wins since the early 90s. It's been a long time since they've been able to get anything functional going, and Dan Campbell's taken this team from 3 to 9 to 12 to 15 wins in this time. In an NFC that is probably the best division in the league right now, even though 2 have already got out of that. But when you look at that emotion, the aggression that I talk about They're the 6th best team when it comes to the 4th down conversion rate. They're the 3rd best on 3rd downs. To me, that's two of the things that we talk about here of why it's been so dysfunctional, because those are two things you can't get done, and those are things that are important, especially that 3rd down rate, and it's something they're really good about. But even despite that, which we mentioned this yesterday with Jeremy Reisman too, the injuries, the 16 guys on the defense that have hit IR this season, that they've been able to just, it's not the same. It doesn't look like the defense that you saw in the first few weeks, but they were still able to win 15 games, and that's with that. And that's just the defensive side. They've had 20 total guys on IR throughout the season, including a David Montgomery, who was a big part of their offense, and they were still able to be functional throughout that. So I just think that when you look at what he's been able to do with an organization that has been just criminally bad for a very long time, you have to give him props. And I do think there are other pieces. There are other coaches. There's the drafting aspect and all of it with that. But I just do think Dan Campbell is exactly the type of guy that you want leading your team. And so to me, it's hard to not look at this Lions team and not say they're one of the best teams in the NFL despite losing half their team.
Well, and one of the key aspects of being a really good head coach is the guys that you hire, the team that you put around you. And so the only knock on Dan Campbell would be, like you mentioned, how many games did they win last year? 12?
Yeah.
So the only knock would be they're incrementally only going from 12 wins to 15 wins. So
12 to 15 is hard to win. I was going to say, it's kind of hard.
It's really good, but I just mean when people look at it, writers look at it, they're going to say, but he also had a really good team last year. And yes, they were even better. They got the number 1 seed this year. But he didn't take over a hot mess of a team. Yes, the organization.
Well, he did when he only won 3 games the first year because it was a hot mess.
Right. I just mean as far as from last year to this year, I feel like people are going to, like I said, that's the only knock that I can see is people saying, well, they were a really good team last year. It's not like they were a 5-win team last year and now they won 15 games.
To me, I always go back to that 9-win season because they won 9 that his second year there, and they did not make the postseason. The Jags won 9, made the postseason that year, and that was always my comparison. Is what the Jags did was be like, we're good, like we're fine. We won 9 games, we won the playoffs, we beat the Chargers in the postseason. We don't really need to do much because our team's good enough. Dan Campbell looked at that team and was like, no, we can get better, and they continued to get better. And what happened is they went to 12, and then they went to 15. You lost 2 games. You lost 2 games in your 4th year in the NFL. And one of the hardest divisions.
Yeah, I really think Dan Campbell might win it. I really think Kevin O'Connell might win it because of the season that the Vikings had and the fact that Kevin O'Connell doesn't have a Jared Goff and those running backs and that type of thing. Yes, he does have Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
That's a great weapon.
Probably the best.
Yeah, probably the best. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, I feel like you're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
And then I will say my argument is for Dan Quinn. The only rookie quarterback that's going to make the second round, the divisional round of the postseason this year is Jaden Daniels. The guy who's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, I would say at this point I expect it, is Jaden Daniels. And yes, he's more of a defensive-minded head coach, but the people that he put in place in a Cliff Kingsbury have been able to create the system that works beautifully for Jaden Daniels. Get this, we talk about how bad things have been here personnel-wise. All 6 of the Washington Commanders' first-round picks between 2019 and 2023 are not on this team. All 6 of them have been shipped out. So therefore, they have been able to build a team. Now, granted, give a lot of credit to the general manager as well, but they've been able to build a team with Dan Campbell at the helm that is a 12-win outfit when last year they won 4 games.
Yeah, right.
Just imagine that, Jaguars fans.
Yeah.
You go from 4-13 this year to next year, your head coach gets you to 12-5. Wins the first round on the road in the wild card weekend at a team in the Bucs that certainly have a ton of weapons, and now is in the divisional round. Granted, it's going to be a tough game this weekend at the Lions, but if the Jaguars had that, the Jaguars head coach would 100% win Coach of the Year.
And if you're going to make the argument that you noted with the Lions, Lauren, about, well, incrementally, how much better do they get in the wins-loss column?
Right.
Yes, the Commanders have that award wrapped up. So if you want to go based off that.
Which is maybe why I threw that in, because I was adding to my debate and my argument.
And that's the argument you can make.
Yeah, look, yes, he has a great quarterback in Jaden Daniels, but he is just a rookie, and the system they've been able to create, and the Commanders won games that were wacky, certainly we know, against the Bears, but they had several other games come down to the final few seconds, and they were able to win. And that, to me, is certainly a testament to the head coach and the culture that the head coach has set.
Yeah, I saw a stat actually yesterday that I had retweeted. And so it was Mike McCarthy without Dan Quinn in Dallas was 13-20. Mike McCarthy with Dan Quinn in Dallas, 36-15.
There you go. Thank you for adding to my argument.
Yeah, I think you have to give credit to, because that was one of the teams that I think nobody was expecting, and so that does add to that side of things.
Just
because
us.
it was, I thought Washington was my sneaky team that I thought was going to be good, and I thought that I'm a huge Terry McLaurin fan. I think Terry McLaurin's one of the better receivers in the league. So
he just hasn't had a quarterback.
Yeah, it does bother me that people are always like, Jaden's not throwing to anyone. Yes, he is. Like, Terry McLaurin is one of the better quarterbacks, one of the better wide receivers in the league. Also, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, when he's healthy, is one of the better tight ends in the league. He's just getting older and has battled injuries. So it's not like he has nobody. And Brian Robinson also we've seen have. So there's pieces around that. But I do think you have to give credit to both Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury for what they've been able to simplify to make this roster, who wasn't quite at the level of obviously a Lions or a Vikings, but people didn't expect the Vikings either. Everyone was like, Sam Darnold's your quarterback. When J.J. McCarthy got hurt, everyone was like, oh, they're done. Like, what are they going to do? So you have to give credit to both of those teams. And that's why I think that when I made the argument last week of when they vote is an odd time to me for the NFL. Like, I really wish that it was like, okay, you have an in-season MVP and an in-season like coach of the regular season, and then maybe do a playoff one, because those are two very separate things, I think. If you have a coach who now, let's say Dan Campbell, or obviously even with Washington, if Dan Quinn or Dan Campbell go through and win the Super Bowl, how much more does that add to what they've done for this season?
I do want to note, Washington does still have its 2 first-round picks from 2018 and 2017,
Right,
both
but
by
not-
way of Alabama.
Not 2019 through 2023.
Yeah, it's still more than the Jaguars can say. Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, a pretty bold strategy there, Cotton to go back-to-back defensive linemen out of Tuscaloosa. On the coaching front, we don't have any news for you per se here in Jacksonville. However, Lions DC Aaron Glenn, speaking of Detroit, is currently meeting with reporters ahead of their playoff matchup with the aforementioned Washington Commanders. And Aaron Glenn says the reason that he did not take an interview with the New England Patriots was because, quote, it just wasn't the best situation for me, and he doesn't feel any ill will toward the organization.
Also, in other news, when it comes to the NFL, Quinn Ewers has declared for the NFL draft. So add another quarterback to potentially the first round, second round, somewhere in there. Certainly, all the quarterbacks taken early in this draft help the Jags, because the Jags are not going to be taking a quarterback early.
But yeah, just back to Aaron Glenn real quick. The fact that he said New England just wasn't the best situation for me, and he did take an interview here, do with that information what you will.
Yeah.
And yes, he did play one season here in 2007, was a part of a playoff team. Maybe it's the nostalgia factor of that. But the fact that he said no to one organization's situation and yes to another to at least explore the possibility, interesting to me.
I saw a post from a Raiders fan earlier, and I immediately went to the comments because I just wanted to see what people were saying. But they were saying the benefits of why a head coach would pick the Raiders, and they had a list of like 10 different things. Some of them, Tom Brady obviously leading at the top of that, Brock Bowers being in there, all of those sorts of things. But on one of them, it said, pick your quarterback. And I was like, is that really an appeal to be like, we don't have anybody, but you can try and find somebody?
But if we give you a 10-year contract and we promise we're not bailing on the 10-year contract because of the guaranteed money, you could choose to wait until the 2028 draft or the 2027 draft, which I hear is going to be pretty good when it comes to the quarterback
you can
position.
Get Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round this year.
And just hang out with him for a couple of years, because according to, I saw there's one podcast floating out there on the internet with one of the commentators for the Commanders broadcast. I don't know if it's radio or TV. And he said that the reason Adam Peters said turn the plane around was because, and granted, this is the Washington side, I'm sure Ben Johnson would say this is not true, was because Sam Howell was his preferred quarterback. Mm-hmm. So, hey, listen, maybe he does like those knockoff, good college quarterback, but hey, we don't know what they're going to be in the NFL, mid-round guys. Maybe that's his style.
Prisco liked Sam Howell, in addition to...
He liked Will Levis, too.
Levis,
We love
yeah.
you,
He also loved Josh Allen before most people.
He also loves Jordan Love.
And yeah, Jordan Love is good. Just he's
not great.
Certainly faltered.
The way Prisco talks about him, he was like, "They're Super Bowl bound. He's this is his." And I'm like, "No, he had 8 good games. Let's breathe a little bit."
All during the Toyota-thon.
Yes.
I clearly missed or must have been listening to Prisco because I had Packers Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
When we return, Terminix Pest of the Day is on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Big moment. Play-by-play is full of plot twists. Did that just happen? And high-octane drama.
And this game is tied.
Experience the most play-by-play sports on 1010XL. Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Why Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned? I'll tell you why. Over 600 vehicles in stock, one location. That's over 275 SUVs, over 200 cars, over 110 pickups, over 30 Jeeps, over 50 luxury vehicles on the ground in stock at one location. Arlington Pre-Owned even has 125 vehicles under $18K. Plus, Arlington's 30-day exchange program is now double, folks. That's 60 days to decide if you love your purchase or come on back and exchange it for one that you do. Worried about financing? Don't be. Arlington's Credit for Everyone program is here to help you get financed. You even get a complimentary car wash with every scheduled service. 600 vehicles in stock on the ground every day, plus 60-day exchange, Credit for Everyone, and so much more. So if you want to know why Arlington, now you know, but I got to ask, what are you waiting for? Shop in person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, or online at arlingtontoyota.com.
Jimerson Burr is a full-service, Florida-based commercial law firm dedicated to helping businesses manage risk, maximize opportunities, and move their company forward. Jimerson Burr attorneys are business-oriented lawyers, equally comfortable as community leaders, private transaction counselors, or courtroom advocates. If you have a legal issue of any kind affecting your business, contact the firm at 389-0050 or jimersonfirm.com.
If you've played sports or still lead an active life, chances are joint pain is nothing new. This is Dr. George Barry of Barry Orthopedics, and we like to be your option when it comes to taking care of your body and getting back in the game. From shoulders to elbows to hip and knee pain, Barry Orthopedics can diagnose and treat a variety of injuries that are causing you pain. We are Barry Orthopedics and online at barryorthopedics.com. With more than 30 years of experience, our team is here to care for your entire family.
Find out more at barryorthopedics.com. That's BAHRI orthopedics.com. It's playoff time, and now's the time to cash in on the postseason. Joe C. for Hard Rock Bet, and the place for all the action during the playoffs is Hard Rock Bet, all the way to the big game. HardRock.bet running new promos every day to start the new year, including football specials, odds boost, so you can make the most of every bet. It's so easy to download the app and immediately get in on the action. Just search Hard Rock Bet. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to wager. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold, silver, and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at over $2,600 per ounce. Pay bills. Buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
It's Helmets and Heels, Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
Clean air, cool air, both are extremely important. Trust Florida Home AC to deliver on both with their Remy Halo, the next generation of air quality technology. Call 777-4300 for Florida Home AC and breathe clean and cool air.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Living on Amelia Island, having fun in Fernandina Beach? No matter what brings you to the fun, cozy town, make sure you check out the tap room at Mocama Beer Company. With a full flight of craft creations, from the Cosmico IPA to the Motor, the perfect Pilsners and lagers, matching memories and some Mocama magic is what it's all about. Mocama Beer Company in Fernandina Beach, near the big water where the sun is born. And look for more Mocama craft at your local Total Wine or ABC Liquors.
Hey folks, Mike Dempsey here for Pella Windows and Doors. Look, it's kind of cooling down right now. I love opening my windows up this time of year. If you're looking to upgrade your windows in your home, I want you to visit the Pella showroom on Phillips Highway. Ask about their latest hurricane and impact-resistant windows and doors, rated #1 by Consumer Reports in all 3 main window categories. You want quality, style, and protection? Visit PellaJacks.com and the showroom on Phillips Highway just north of Bay Meadows. That's Pella Windows and Doors online at PellaJacks.com.
It's your go-to for golf talk. The Edwin Watts Golf Hour.
All we need to do is develop the rest of your game. Then you'll be unstoppable, son.
Get local updates, gear reviews, and all things golf talk. Saturday mornings at 10 on 1010XL.
Don't go through another year with all that high-interest debt. Let Loan Pronto wipe it all out now. Hey, it's Prosser here, and Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan makes it easy to pay off all your credit cards or tackle that 2025 home improvement project. Get cash in your pocket fast. No appraisals, no paperwork, no waiting. Loan Pronto's AI-driven tech gets you approved and funded in as little as 1 day. One client got $150,000 approved in under 24 hours, paid off all their credit cards, 2 cars, and personal loans, saving over $1,500 per month. With low fixed rates and lightning fast transfers, you can do it too. Consolidate debt, improve your home, take control of your finances. Imagine being credit card debt-free by this time next week. You can. Don't wait. Call Loan Pronto now, 904-999-1508, or visit loanpronto.com. Get your free quote now with no hard credit pull at 904-999-1508. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by Kuhn Flowers. The Orlando Magic hit the road to take on the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, and Bucks' Damian Lillard will be one of those guys to contain as he averages 24.8 points. With the Magic's Paulo Banchero back out on the court, head coach Jamal Mosley spoke during Tuesday's practice on Banchero being back and how it'll affect the game.
One, it's different for their side because they can game plan for it a little bit differently, knowing he's going to be on the floor. So some of the things that we saw, we may see more of or less of. So us being able to prepare for that and him being able to prepare for that, the different spacing scenarios, the matchups that we like, I think it's a great opportunity. And for this situation to happen when it did, he gets one game and now we're going against the same team again to be able to adjust accordingly to how they're playing us and how we need to play them.
Orlando and the Bucks tonight at 8 p.m. in Milwaukee. It's 58 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time in temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl, Mia O'Brien, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Any Jaguars coaching search news we have, we will bring it your way as early and as often as we possibly can. Time now for our Terminix Pest of the Day. I have 2 pests, but they're equally related to the same thing. The referees in last night's Missouri-Florida game in Gainesville. Taylor, I'm sure you were not wide awake at 38. Yeah, 35 p.m. when 40 p.m. when the game ended, finally. So my first pest, the refs, because they needed, well, that's the second pest. I'll get to that in just a second. Thank you for asking, actually. So the referees needed 8 instant replays in order to get things correct.
2 of which were in the final minute 30 of the game.
Correct. They needed 8. But here's my bigger issue. On one Caleb Grill 3, it wasn't a 3. He stepped on the line. And of all the times that the referees casually missed something and didn't go to a replay, it was then. And Florida, meanwhile, lost by 1 point. By 1 point. Now, granted, I'm not saying Florida would have won the game if the referees had gotten that call right, because Florida was down by 19 at one point in the first half. Yes, it was not a great night as far as the first half for Florida. The defense was terrible, and also Missouri was shooting just their lights out.
Don't be upset about that part of this, Gator fans.
I'm not.
Caleb Grill has been in college forever. Like, truthfully, I think he's been in college since 2018. And he always has one of these games in the month of January. So I'm sorry that it was you this year. You can't get upset at a guy who goes 6 of 10 from 3, and he consistently, I'm going to literally go back now and look through his history. We can also confirm if he's been in college since 2018. He always has one of these games, Lauren.
Yeah, and I will say, that happens in college basketball. There are nights that the other team is just on fire. It certainly happened when Florida played Kentucky, but that was in Rupp. And this was in your own gym. So
2019, by the way.
Okay, that shouldn't happen. But still, that's a long time. You shouldn't be in college that long.
And he's been at 4 different schools. So, but I digress. Continue.
Which that happens, of course, in all aspects of college sports these days. But the refs at that point in time, and obviously Todd Golden and his staff should have pointed out it should have gone to another replay. There should have been 9 of them. But still, the refs need to be able to get that right, even without replay. So the fact that took forever for the game to finish. But the reason also, Taylor, that it took so long, it was 2 hours and 40 minutes. But as far as the game time starting at 9, so I don't love the 9 p.m. East Coast start in general. but it doesn't come on the television as far as like the channel it's supposed to come on until like 9:20 because the game before it is lasting too long because that game didn't come back from halftime till after 8 o'clock. Like I knew, of course, at like 8:15, I was like, well, this game's not going to end on time. The Ole Miss Alabama game was ahead of the
Ole Miss
Florida
upset
one.
Alabama. I saw
Ole
that.
Miss did, and so by the way, it's the moment that game went final, Ole Miss won by about 10. I was like, oh, this is not good news. At the moment that a top 5 team goes down at home, I feel like that trickles
all the juju
down, and so I was nervous at that point in time. But so, yes, I can watch on the ESPN app, and that's fine. But I want the game on my channel when it's supposed to be on the channel. So how about start the other game earlier? Because obviously you have too many commercials.
Or better yet,
so many pests.
Last I checked, Tuscaloosa's in the Central Time Zone.
Right. Start them later.
I'm pretty sure Ole Miss, like they also, that campus is in the Central Time Zone. So why would you have the game that's being played in the Eastern Time Zone? Yes, it also involves a team from Missouri, but why would that be the 9 o'clock tip? That just was a little surprising to me on the scheduling front. But yeah, look,
where's Missouri ranked?
So they're not ranked.
Oh, they're not ranked.
But they've beaten Kansas and now a top 5 Florida at home. So Missouri will climb into the rankings.
Yeah, they're 14-3. They're 3 losses, Taylor. A ranked Memphis, Illinois, who was also ranked, and then Auburn, who at the time was number 2, is now the number 1 team in the country. Their wins maybe not as impressive outside of that Kansas victory, which certainly has elevated their resume when it comes to potential NCAA tournament bids.
And then now Florida.
Yeah, now Florida. Florida's their second best win right now.
Yeah, and certainly that's a great resume builder because of what Florida's been able to do to this point in the season and beating number 1 Tennessee by 30 at home. Terminix can take care of all of your pests or your rodents. Visit them online, Terminix.com. That's TERMINIX.com. They came to our house last week. They will come to your house or your place of business. If you have been to Everbank Stadium, Daly's Place, any of the great concert venues around ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, Terminix takes care of their pests as well.
Did you see the entire crowd, Hoosiers crowd booing?
Oh,
their
yeah,
team
Mike
off
Woodson
the court?
and the whole team. No, and the players were actually like very transparent. They're like, they should be booing us. Like we're not playing to the standard. Illinois, Indiana was an interesting
you can't
game.
have football and basketball.
I know. They literally can't. Look, go through history. I don't think they were that good in 2019 for 9-win Indiana.
Yeah.
They certainly aren't good, at least the early returns so far of Big Ten play this season. But I do think Illinois is going to once again factor into the second weekend conversation. So it's not an awful loss. It's just that it was at Assembly Hall and you want to defend home court. But I mean, it's they need something to complain about.
Yeah, they were freaking out because, Illinois was freaking out because they had just lost to USC.
Correct.
So their fans were having a meltdown, and then that game happens, and they're like, okay.
Which maybe the Must Bus is getting it together because they certainly pummeled Iowa last night. From the text line, Design by Lifetime Enclosures, 868. It's been, the refs had way too many replays overturned. It has been affecting my Wednesday. I'm on my second cup of coffee at 1:06, so I agree with you, 868. I looked at the clock, and I was like, oh, boy. I'm like, come on now. I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah, it's just
the fact that students too were like, I mean, the O-Dome is loaded with people at 11:40 p.m. on a quote-unquote school night, but we want to continue to say that these are student athletes.
Well, I'm not as worried about the student athletes. I'm more worried about the other people who actually do have to go to school and get a degree and get a royal job.
You're about to say, I'm worried about myself.
No, well, I'm obviously worried about myself as well. But honestly, I feel like when you work in sports, you just sacrifice sleep. That's how it goes. You're going to stay up till much later than you normally would. We have on Monday night.
Yeah, next Monday I'm probably not sleeping. Honestly, I'm gonna whether I'm gonna be sad or really happy, and there's not gonna be much sleep involved.
Yeah, we have the national championship game. I did see that they say it kicks off at 7:30. That's at least better than saying it kicks off at 8:30.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll kick off around 8. But going back to the Florida men's basketball team, something that drives me a little crazy about Todd Golden's squad is they pick up their dribble far too often at the top of the key. So yes, there's good defenders and they're going to be, swarming the ball, and obviously they're going to swarm especially the best shooters on Florida's team. Don't pick up your dribble. Wait until you have help. And so if you ever watch a basketball game with me at home, I scream 2 things constantly at poor Brian. I scream, help him. So the moment that Florida picks up their dribble, so I scream that all the time during the game, help him, because they are constantly picking up their dribble instead of continuing to dribble, because obviously if you pick pick up your dribble, you can't dribble
re-dribble.
again. Yeah, that would be against the rules. And then the other thing I scream is that's our ball. And that's because Florida's so good at rebounding, both offensively and defensively, that at both ends of the court I scream, that's our ball almost every single time. Because normally Florida gets the rebound, although Missouri did better rebounding last night.
Why do you think that is? Like, is that a coaching element?
Because they run so many 5-out sets. Because he believes he has 5 shooters on the floor.
Right,
which Missouri took advantage of last night because they basically were like, okay, you've got like 2 big men on the floor, and we really don't think they can shoot from beyond the arc, so we're just going to keep pulling them out, lure them out.
42% for, three-point shooter.
Right. Like
but they have off nights, so that percentage is always different.
Like him and Howard are like, they're decent 3-point shooters for big men, but it's not like...
That could also be my pest of the day, is that Mike Morgan, who is the play-by-play guy last night, I'm pretty sure he went to the University of Florida.
Oh, really?
And he was pronouncing Thomas Hawk in the very beginning. And then he did it twice, and I'm wondering if someone's going to correct him, and then immediately started saying Hawk.
Oh.
So I do think Pat Bradley or someone in his ear was like,
we need to keep a tally of the Ruben Chinyelu pronunciations. Last night was Chinyalu. I've heard Chinyalu. I've heard Shiny.
I had read Chinyelu
that's what
ahead
it
of the
is.
season.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I don't understand why not everyone says Ruben Chinyelu. I also just don't understand. Phonetic pronunciations are available everywhere online.
Yeah.
So just read it, learn it. Robert Sala, that's how you pronounce his name. Thomas Castellanos, like we've talked about, that's how you pronounce his name. DJ Uyunglele, which now no one will ever have to pronounce again.
We're done with that one.
No, he's going to the NFL, Lauren. What are you talking
that's
about?
That's why I said no one will have to pronounce him again.
He'll be somewhere. I do want to, just to make you feel a little bit better, Florida fans. Last year, Caleb Grill did not play enough games because of injury for the statistic, but as I go back through his career game logs, the 2022-2023 season when he went back to Iowa State for the second time. Yes, he started at Iowa State, followed TJ Otzelberger to UNLV, then came back again. In terms of three-point shooting, he averaged about 3.5 threes per game. So then riddle me why on January 30th in an overtime loss to Texas Tech, he went 8 of 12 from beyond the arc. Riddle me why in the Pete Knight Invitational, or Phil Knight, excuse me, not Pete Knight, Phil Knight Invitational against UNC, 7-11 from three-point range back in November of that season. And so the point is, again, he always has these games where this man he pops off from 3, but then you have 1 of 6 against Miami, 1 of 3 against Wisconsin, 2 of 11 against LSU. So I'm sorry it was you guys this year, but you just got grilled.
Yeah, it happens. Look, I am glad that Todd Golden's team has that much fight in them because not a lot of teams down that much, even at home, would be fighting back as hard as they did. They certainly clawed back, and they'd get it to within 3, and then Missouri would go on another run, and then they'd fight back again, get it to within 3 to 5, and then Missouri would go on another run. And so it was just one of those nights. Certainly Missouri shot well, but it's great to see this team be able to withstand some of those runs and still be able to keep their wits about them. Certainly Walter Clayton Jr. had a great game. All right, well, let's get it back to football on the other side. We're going to talk Bucks times 2.
Oh, yes, Bucks. I do want to, just real quick before we hit break, because you were talking about UNLV. Did you see that Matthew Sluka's going to James Madison now? I'm like, this kid.
That's where the real money is, Taylor. Come on now. Come on. We all know that's where the money is at.
They've got big boosters, James Madison does. All right, so we will talk Buccaneers, Liam Cohen, and also Buckeyes when we return with Evan Closky down in Tampa. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
There are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and Jags football.
To the 5, into the end zone, touchdown!
Jaguar football lives here. 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
What's happening, fellas? It's your boy E to the T here, and it's a brand new year, which means a brand new you, especially in the bedroom. So if you're ready to make 2025 the year to level up where it counts, let me make it a little easier for you. Get yourself some Blue Chew. They've got a chewable tablet that has the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and Staxin. That means you're getting top-tier performance, my boy, without leaving the house. Blue Chew comes right to your front door in a discreet package, so your neighbors won't even know what's going on. But you will. No doctor's offices and no pharmacy run. Just licensed medical providers helping you find the right prescription. And guess what? They're made right here in the USA. Oh, and did I mention it's free? Yeah, you heard me. Your first month is free. So what you waiting for? Visit BlueChew.com and get a consultation. And start your year off with confidence to keep things interesting in that bedroom. Get that Blue Chew at BlueChew.com, baby. Let's make this year unforgettable.
Mia here for MyBookie. It's win or go home. The NFL playoffs are the ticket to the biggest game of the year, and all roads lead to that big game in New Orleans. The college football playoffs set the stage, but now is your chance to get in on every high-stakes moment along the way. Your road to New Orleans starts now with MyBookie, the ultimate destination for bettors who want more. Whether you're backing the underdogs or riding with the favorites, every drive, every touchdown, every moment is an opportunity to win big. Kick off your 2025 right with risk-free Thursdays. Place a bet, and if it doesn't hit, MyBookie refunds you your money. Dive into the Bet Boost tab to supercharge your picks and build that bankroll before the big game in February. And when the games are over, the action does not stop. MyBookie's online casino keeps the excitement going 24/7. Blackjack, roulette, slots, it's all there, whether you're celebrating a big win or gearing up for the next round. Join today using promo code 1010XL on your first deposit for a 50% deposit bonus because you deserve to start the new year off right.
I'm living proof that with Rebound Rehab, you can bounce back and get back in the game. Joe C. for Rebound Rehabilitation, and they helped me recover from an ankle injury that had me down and out. Their team of physical therapists ensure you'll get the best treatment you need to recover and regain mobility. From back, shoulder, and neck pain to a nagging knee or arthritis, Rebound Rehab can help form a game plan through therapy and exercise, complete with an app so you can continue to recover at home. Check out reboundrehab.com. 8 convenient locations.
New Year's resolutions. But let's be honest, by February, that gym membership is just a $50 a month guilt trip.
So why not take that cash and finally fix your leaky faucet, unclog that drain, or tune up your AC?
Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning has your back. Start the year fresh. No leaks, no clogs, no excuses.
It's a resolution you'll actually keep.
Call Duck Rooter at 904-862-6769 today. Because when you're stuck, call the Duck. Right now, get $50 off any service of $150 or more.
It's Helmets and Heels, Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Homeowners, listen up. It's time to start fresh in 2025. Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here to help take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payments and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans, starting in the low 5s APR. If your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much. Even if you're in process with another lender, call Loan Pronto now. Lock in at a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It's fast, easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call now, 904-999-1508, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
Mark Watson here to tell you a little bit about hardballcreative.com. It's your online promo haven with thousands of ideas on how to promote your company. We're open 24/7, 365.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
Joe C. for CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. They can transform your backyard with fire pits, pergolas, screen enclosures, and outdoor kitchens. And CSS handles the entire project from start to finish. You dream it, they build it. CSSOutdoor.com.
It's the blog players put their pads on for.
So we got to bring my thoughts and observations on our home team. That's what I share with you every week on my blog.
Roland Reach Plumbing brings you Hayes Blog on 1010XL.com.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
Hey, Hicken here, or just call me Dreamfinders Danny. For a limited time to ring in the new year, Dreamfinders Homes is offering an amazing 4.99% fixed interest rate. Now's your chance to lock down that rate and get in the game. You heard me right. It's 4.99 fixed interest rate on select move-in ready homes. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for sales event information and get in the game. Interest rate available on select move-in ready homes. Restrictions and limitations apply. Go to dreamfindershomes.com for more details.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line.
Hello.
We can wiggle it.
Always a pleasure to welcome on our good friend from Tampa Town, Evan Closky of WSTP in Tampa Bay, the sports director, kind enough to join us and give us a few minutes on the Garber Auto Mall hotline as we continue our tour of the Jaguars coaching search targets. That includes one Liam Cohen, currently the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. But first and foremost, Happy New Year, Evan. Thank you so much for pinch hitting and hopping on with us.
Yeah, anytime. You know that.
Appreciate you, brother, man. Hey, so let's get right to it. Liam Cohen is not only a name that certainly plenty listening here on the Superstation today are enticed by, but is also a name that I've seen you since August banging the drum for. Give us the 30,000-foot view, the grassroots level view of what makes him not only a great offensive coordinator, but hate to do it, but the ultimate cliche, a great leader of men.
Yeah, well, let me say this. When it comes to Liam Cohen, what I loved so much about watching his offense this season is how he was able to adapt to the talent around him. And I think that is the mark of a great coach, because anyone can go out there, have a system, and say, hey, do this, and even if it doesn't work, this is what we're running, right? I don't think that's good coaching. I think good coaching is able to recognize the talent you have around you and then meld the offense or mold it to the way that it should be that fits their best strengths. So let's talk about Liam Cohen entering the season. He wanted to go 11 personnel, hurry up, and it was supposed to look a certain way, right? And then, Chris Godwin goes down, or the zone running scheme. You know what? This isn't really working. Our guys aren't having a lot of success there early in the season. They're like, oh, these gap runs. Wow, they're really popping off for us. What if we threw more gap runs into this offense? So as the season progressed, we saw more gap runs. As the season progressed, you saw that the Buccaneers were one of the best running teams in the NFL because they were leaning into a strength of theirs. Then you realize that Godwin goes down, Mike goes down. All right, throughout this whole season, we're going from 11 personnel, hurry up, to we're going to have to change out personnel constantly. We're going to have the pony package where we have Rashad and Bucky in there. Let's try to get our two running backs because they're so good. Let's put them on the field and try to get them into open space. We saw 12 personnel. We saw 13 personnel at some times. So just he presents so much at defenses, and he makes them defend every blade of grass. That's north and south, east and west. He really stretches you to think about what is going to happen, and a lot of plays look similar but then have different functions. So I think that he's a dynamo coach, a dynamo offensive mind, and maybe the one weakness that I would say, maybe the only weakness I would say from his first year in Tampa Bay, there were execution issues throughout the year, and that's why you saw so many turnovers from this team, and you saw it in the worst way possible on the biggest stage, which is partly the reason why they're out of the playoffs right now.
Evan, there's a phrase that we use and / talk about a lot in the NFL, and that is the Sean McVay tree. This is a name we link to that also. Are there similarities that you see in how he likes to scheme things? I know you just went into detail of the scheme in general, but we know Sean McVay when it comes to tight ends and when it comes to running backs, when it comes to all these different things. And do you see similarities in how they kind of run and like to run the offenses?
Yeah, and I think that Sean McVay also, that's a thing, too. Sean McVay has really kind of evolved throughout his time as a head coach and has also had to adapt to the talent around him and what they do. And you've seen kind of more recently that, even with McVay, Shanahan, what they want to do is they want to be run-first teams. We don't really think about that as much because they have these, stellar quarterbacks traditionally, not necessarily Shanahan. He's still searching for that before, he got Brock Purdy finally. But, especially with Liam Cohen, I thought that Liam actually, while they had a dominant rushing attack, I think sometimes in the game script of things or the game flow, he would get a little bit pass heavy because that's really Baker, kind of ride Baker a little bit and roll with the hot hand. But you'll definitely see a similar strand of offense with what you see with the Rams and McVay versus what you see with Liam and the Bucs. And honestly, it's becoming a little bit more omnipresent in the NFL of just sort of that tree. McVay, Shanahan, just like those are the most successful offenses, which is why these guys are constantly getting head coaching gigs, which means that we're seeing them everywhere. And you're still seeing other offensive coordinators elsewhere who might not be a head coach in future, such as like a Zach Robinson out in Atlanta, right? It's just it's constantly taking over team by team, and very potentially the Jacksonville Jaguars might be on that train soon.
And I'm glad you mentioned the execution issues because we saw that here a lot this season. And so there was the debate of, is it Press Taylor's offense or is it the lack of execution by the actual players on the field? And so certainly we saw the fumble by Baker and then also the snap count issues as well. So where do you think the blame falls? Does it fall on Liam Cohen? Do you think it falls more on the players? Is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's very easy. I think the strongest, the most ardent Liam Cohen supporters will blame it on the players, and then I think there are other people who say, well, the players are a byproduct of the coaching, so that's got to be their fault. In the end, right, it's, part of it is it Liam Cohen's fault that Graham Barton just has a brain fart and snaps the ball too early on a 3rd and inches situation in the playoffs? No. Is it Liam's fault that Bucky Irving fumbles in Atlanta or Rachaad White fumbles in Dallas? No, but when you keep stacking it up, and Baker keeps falling into some similar traps with the turnovers, the interceptions. Baker fumbled the ball. He didn't lose all of them, but his fumble number was just insane. I mean, like close to 20. I forget what it is. I lost count. But it's the thing that Liam did when he entered the season, he told us to the media. He said, I'm going to throw everything at them, and, we're not going to coddle or hold them back. We're going to give them the entire repertoire of what we work with, and we're going to go from there. And I think what you saw in year one was an offense dealing with the entire repertoire of things. And in doing so, it's really tough to be detailed year one and nail everything the way that it's supposed to be as if you were doing it for years and years. So I think that over time, if, hypothetically Liam were to be in the same offense or to be a head coach somewhere and build upon a system and a personnel and do this and that, I think you'll see a lot of those details and execution issues thinned out. But entering year one, it was very evident that the turnovers and the details and the penalties and all these things, they were starting to add up as the year went on. And Liam Cohen certainly has to bear some of the blame for that, and he recognizes that. But, it is also on the players to make sure they're doing their job too.
You can find Evan on X at Closky, WTSP. I am definitely dyslexic and said WSTP earlier. It is it's CBS. It
happens to the best of us.
CBS affiliate, correct? Did I get that one right at least?
Yes,
yes, the CBS affiliate on Channel 10 in Tampa Town. He joins us on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. Evan, we're going to actually throw a curveball at you here momentarily. I know my wonderful co-hosts here are very excited to ask you about your Buckeyes, a proud Ohio State grad. So we'll pepper you with some of those questions, but to put a bow on the Liam Cohen conversation, yes, we've seen the tweets. I've heard the fan base in Tampa, the clamoring, the groundswell for, is Todd Bowles good enough for what Buccaneers fans hope to eventually accomplish and the standard that's been set there. And the idea of, well, we can't let Liam Cohen walk out the door. Evan, let's settle this once and for all. Is Todd Bowles on the hot seat?
The real question is, and I think what the debate is for fans and what I'm trying to help them see is that I think if you were to tell the fan base, hey, I can guarantee you that Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen are coming back next season, would you sign up for that? I guarantee you the majority of Buccaneers fans would say, yes, I would. But if you tell Buccaneers fans, hey, if Liam Cohen leaves this offseason and, that means you're keeping Todd Bowles and, that's the Sophie's choice you have to make, Todd Bowles or Liam Cohen, the majority are going to say we want Liam Cohen. So I'm not 100% sure to say that, I don't think Todd Bowles is necessarily on the hot seat, but if the Glazers and Jason Light get to a point where Liam Cohen is hitting the final stages here of taking this Jaguars job, let's say, I'm not 100% certain that they wouldn't pull the rug out from Todd and say, look, this guy is 39. He's got a long runway ahead of him. You're a 61-year-old head coach. You're not going to, you mentioned he's not going to coach forever. And so when factoring in the future, is it really smart to let someone like Liam go? So I don't want to say hot seat, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Todd Bowles is 100% moving into the offseason as the head coach. I think that this decision with Liam is extremely important, and the discussion we're having are the same ones that Jason Light and the Glazers are having, of watching the world around them view Liam and seeing if they're going to have to make a move that maybe necessarily they don't want to make, but they get forced into.
Evan, let's switch over to that Ohio State Notre Dame game. I'm a Notre Dame fan, by the way, so go Irish. But what have you seen since that Michigan game? Obviously, Ohio State only able to score 10 points in that game. Since then, really does feel like the offense has heated up in the playoffs, in the bowl game, in the playoffs. So what have you seen happen offensively with Will Howard? Obviously, a ton of weapons they have, but Will Howard specifically.
Yeah, I just think that most importantly, the Buckeyes are using their passing game to set up their rushing attack versus trying to force feed the rushing attack to set up the passing game. That's, I don't know what – it was coaching malpractice, the Michigan game, of how they game planned for that. It was very confusing of why they decided to run right into the teeth of what Michigan was very good at in the trenches, especially with Ohio State dealing with a couple of offensive – line issues and injuries. So they are, we've seen it throughout the playoffs, leaning on Jeremiah Smith. And then with Texas being able to shut Jeremiah Smith down, they even get Carnell Tate involved. They're using all the weapons because their wide receiving core is the best in the country. And that's what we said from the very beginning of this season. Who is going to be able to stop this wide receiving group? And Texas and Notre Dame are actually one of the two. I don't know many others. Maybe Michigan at full strength. They weren't even full strength for that game in the shoe. But there are not many teams in the country who can even match up with Ohio State and its wide receivers to make it a game. And so I just think that being able to allow the passing game to open up the runs, which is, or even check it down to Travion Henderson, use Judkins. There's just being a little bit more pass first versus Chip Kelly kind of thinking, hey, we got to, be a run first oriented team, which is what he wants to do. But I think we've seen less stubbornness from the coaching staff moving into the playoffs and accepting the reality of what this team is right now.
Evan, other than Billy Napier, I'm not sure I've seen a coach on the hot seat to start the season and end up with a almost miraculous end to the season. Obviously, Napier's squad not in Florida, not in the postseason this year. But Ryan Day, some people say he should leave Ohio State because of the crazy fan base. I'll call it toxic since everyone wants to call the Florida fan base toxic. But what do you think? I assume Ryan Day will be back next year, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and after that Michigan game, my kind of tagline to everybody was he's going to have to make it to the national championship game. Now, in the couple of wins he had prior to the one in Texas, I mean, they smoked tremendous competition. So it kind of helped create a little bit more gap in that comment. But, it's one of those – the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry is personal. And if you're not a part of it, you don't really understand it. And that's college sports, and that's why we love it, right? It's just rivalries are like that. And I personally, as an Ohio State fan, I wasn't upset. I mean, it stinks losing to Michigan, but I understood losing to Michigan the past few years because they were a really good team. Obviously, they won the national championship last year. There's no shame losing to Michigan and what they had there for the past few years. When you're a 20-point favorite in the horseshoe and you just lost to Michigan a few years prior, you can't have that type of performance. So I think there is a little bit of a perspective that needs to be put, at least for the fans, and also people who want to judge the fans, of just understanding that headspace of the Michigan game sadly doesn't matter as much anymore because the playoffs have expanded. This year, if it was last year, the Buckeyes wouldn't have been in the playoffs. So it would have naturally meant more to be angry at Ryan Day versus right now where it's it might have been a blessing in disguise. They didn't play in the conference championship game. And they were refreshed. They look like a different group. They were able to kind of reset. Maybe the loss kind of locked people in a little bit more of showcasing, hey, these are the things we have to do moving forward if we win a national championship. But, Ryan Day has had significant flaws up until this kind of run. And he wasn't really great in big games, in town here in Tampa. Everyone wanted John Cooper fired for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Remember they had the greatest now it's not the greatest season, but they had the greatest regular season ever and then lost to the Blue Jackets 4-0. They wanted him canned. And then what does he do? He wins back-to-back Stanley Cups. So you're a choker and you're bad until you prove that you're not. And you just hope that you have a long enough leash to prove it. And Ryan Day has done a really good job right now to prove that he's worthy of that job. And he should be back next year. I expect him to be back next year, whatever happens in this game. And I think fans, around Ohio State, just like myself, who were so angry at that Michigan loss, need to kind of regroup and reassess and say, okay, that sucked. But what he has done and what this team has done and how they've rallied, it's obvious that he hasn't lost the team, and it's obvious that he's willing to do the things necessary and get the jobs done to make a win. So final point is I always say this, you don't have parades for beating Michigan, but you do have parades for winning national championships. And the focus needs to be about winning national championships, number one, and beating Michigan is a close second, but you have to understand the order of operations there.
And flags fly forever. Hey, we even got a hockey reference out of Evan. So I don't want to hear we don't talk hockey here on the Superstation, especially with the regular season in the NHL already going on. I texted you to ask you to come on, and I'm like, hey, good luck with hockey and baseball. And yes, baseball is forthcoming, but hockey is going on. And Evan is, of course, pulling double duty, covering both the Lightning and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We appreciate you taking some time, my friend, on this fine Wednesday for joining us on the Garber Auto Mall Hotline.
Yeah, I appreciate you anytime. Thank you so much.
And he even gave the Ohio State breakdown that I know Taylor Dahl is just boiling. Her blood is boiling listening to that.
I also think it's so funny because, James Franklin's comments last week when he was like, Notre Dame needs to join a conference, blah, blah, blah. They never have to play in a conference championship game. Ohio State didn't have to play in their conference championship game, and they're in the national championship, too. So shush.
By the way, the tickets, Taylor, I'm sure you've seen this. The lowest price tickets for the national championship game in Atlanta, $1,899. The most expensive tickets, $13,707. So what's crazy is to think of the fans that have been to the regular season games, the postseason games to this point, and then now we'll pay all that for the national championship game as well. But you know what? If you got it, spend it on your college football team. We've got one segment to go on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Value or flavor? Price or taste? Why choose when you can get both with everyday deals at Sonny's? Right now, you can get the pork big deal for $10, the pork and rib combo for $12, and all you can eat ribs for just $19.99. Yep, you heard right. All your favorites are now available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
Hicken here for Bow 9 Associates, where you'll find Jacksonville's most esteemed eye doctors at each of their locations. After being selected for one of the most competitive ophthalmology fellowships in the world, Dr. Frank Bowden is frequently called upon for his expert opinion. He is currently one of the few cornea and external disease specialists in the area and the founder of Bow 9. Visit Bow 9 Associates today and experience the difference. Bow 9 Associates, keeping the First Coast focused.
Mia here for my friends at Projax Roofing. Winter is coming. If your roof took on any damage at all this year and you want to get ahead of these cold winter months, know that Projax Roofing is here to help. From the smallest of repairs to full roof replacements, my friend Mike has been serving all of Northeast Florida for 25 years. If you need any help with your roof, call Projax Roofing at 904-338-1722 or visit them online at projaxroofingfl.com.
A lot of companies will tell you they're the best. At Custom Tree Surgeons, they show you every time. Custom Tree Surgeons has built an all-pro team. Every tree service professional has years of experience, continually trained and certified. They know what, when, and how to handle any job. It gets done efficiently and quickly by a team of experts. So for tree trimming, removal, stump grinding, and emergency services, forget any name other than Custom Tree Surgeons. There is no job they can't do better. Go to our website, CustomTreeSurgeons.com. That's CustomTreeSurgeons.com, and let them show you how the job is supposed to get done.
Mia here. Since 1982, Closets by Design has specialized in creating dream spaces for every budget. My designer, Frances, made this process so easy. She came to my house and designed a walk-in closet that's not only beautiful, but incredibly functional for me and old Beau Valentine. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation at 1-800-293-3744. I've heard from so many of you guys who've heard this commercial and you want Closets by Design to come to your house too. Be sure you mention Mia or Helmets and Heels and you will qualify for free base molding. Call today or visit closetsbydesign.com, locally owned and operated right here in Jacksonville.
Helmets and Heels.
Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
Bull riding. The perfect fusion of strength, skill, and pure willpower. Professional bull riders aren't just athletes. They're daredevils with cowboy souls. Come experience the true modern West, where 8 seconds of glory will create a lifetime of memories. It's the Michelob Ultra PBR Jacksonville at ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, February 22nd and 23rd. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com and PBR.com. Hold on tight. The ride of your life is about to begin.
Hi, it's Ben, second generation from Beards Diamonds. Guys, if you're popping the question soon, looking for an anniversary gift, before you buy anywhere, shop Beards. From a half carat to 10 carats, Beards will beat any competitor's price.
In the St. John's Town Center or at beardsdiamonds.com.
Start your Sunday off with a cup of Joe and some sports medicine intel. This is Joe C. inviting you to join me and Dr. George Bari for Breaking Bones every Sunday morning at 7:30. And if you miss an episode, just look for Breaking Bones wherever you listen to podcasts.
Denny Thompson here. If you haven't heard, Dan and Jeff are going to be live from the brand new showroom at Tyson Sound and Security this Friday. You have to check out Tyson's showroom home theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. Did I mention Friday morning you can enter to win a $2,500 prize giveaway? Bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound and Security, now at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming Island.
Hacker here with a question. Was your goal to lose weight this year? If so, are you already down 31 pounds? Now that's a serious question because I dropped 31 pounds my first 3 weeks alone with Awaken 180 weight loss. Now I had more to lose than most, but Dempsey, Matt Hayes both dropped 18 in their first 3 weeks. That's how fast the weight can fall off when you choose the solution for weight loss. Where am I now? I'm down over 115 pounds. My goal was to lose 100, but my new goal is to be under 200 pounds for the first time since I was in college. The results are real and the results are fast with Awaken 180. Whether you're not seeing these types of results with your new weight loss program or if you've already given up, don't. Do what we all did and make the call to Awaken 180. 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
We don't have too many cold nights on the First Coast, but when the temperature drops, you want to hit the heat button and warm up. That's where Florida Home comes in. They're the AC experts in Jacksonville, and the importance of keeping your heating system in good working order is really important. If it stops working when it gets cooler, Florida Home will leap into action and provide you with the best solution. Heater and heat pump repair service and new system installation. They do it all. Just call Florida Home AC at 777-4300, the official heating and AC partner of the Jaguars.
Tailgate special alert. 3 pounds of marinated chicken, 2 pounds of marinated steak tips, 2 pounds of fresh ground beef, and 2 pounds of homemade sausage for only $80 to feed your crew.
For tasty tips and juicy breasts, choose Southern Steer Butcher.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air, Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
We, of course, are here keeping you up to date on the very latest when it comes to the Jaguars head coaching search. We already gave you some soundbite quotes from Aaron Glenn, who is meeting with reporters at his weekly availability. The Lions hosting the Commanders in the second round of the NFL playoffs this weekend. Ben Johnson currently at the podium, and he told reporters that he has been much better prepared this go-round on the questions that he has gotten in job interviews. He says he spent the summers contemplating the big picture instead of worrying solely about offense. Quote, I'm a lot more prepared for the questions that come my way and much more comfortable.
So if you're a Lions fan, are you like, great, He spent the offseason worrying about his next job and not focusing every second on our
Practicing his
offense.
interview.
I don't know.
Well,
The offense turned
looks
out
good,
A-okay, so
yeah.
he can multitask.
I don't think there were. If I was a Lions fan, I would be honestly nervous losing Ben Johnson because I think that we've seen what he's been able to do. And yes, I think that they have enough offensive power in general with the offensive line, with both running backs, with Amon-Ra, with obviously what Jared Goff's been able to do. Dan Campbell, we know he's a leader. But I do think that it's not easy to come by, and we know this here very well. It's not easy to come by offensive coordinators that are this good, that are this inventive, that can trick people. I mean, he's making these plays where you think that somebody's falling down and then he's scoring touchdowns off of it. Like, that's not a normal thing you see in the NFL. That's like a Lincoln Riley thing you see at USC sometimes. And
it's like the annexation of Puerto Rico from Little Giants.
Yes, exactly. And so I would be a little nervous, honestly. Like, what does this offense look like without Ben Johnson and
losing the defensive coordinator at
and
the same
possibly
time.
both.
And I understand Dan Campbell, is the mastermind behind the defense, but still, that's the guy. The coordinator is the guy that certainly is the liaison, really, between the head coach. The position coaches are as well, but the coordinator is kind of that guy that he's in every single meeting with that group. And so, if you're losing your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator, who's Dan Campbell going to hire? Obviously, I'm sure he's got a short list.
Yeah.
That's what he probably did during the bye week.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, that's part of it too. Let's say that because obviously let's say the Lions go to the Super Bowl. This is going to be mid-February until people are officially making this. And then that's when you can start looking at your next coordinators that you're having to figure out. And if you have to figure out both coordinators, it's already mid-February. The combine's right around the corner. And you're already like, oh, we have 2 weeks to figure out our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator.
Yeah, right. But like you said, right before the combine, yeah. I do wonder if Jags fans are rooting for or against the Lions. Because if the
kind of
Lions,
like they were against the Bucs this past weekend.
Correct. Like if the Lions are eliminated this weekend, if the Commanders pull off this upset, then Jags fans get to at least have that process go a little faster. But on the flip side, that means that the Commanders outdueled Ben Johnson and or Aaron Glenn. And so are they still the shiny new toy that you were hoping?
Also, I think there is a more of a chance Ben Johnson stays in Detroit if they don't win. I think there's more of a chance he goes somewhere else if they win because he said last year, like, I think we can win the Super Bowl and that's why I want to come back. And there has been some rumors that if they don't win, then he may just stay because he does feel like he has a team there that he can win it all with. So I think if you're in Jacksonville, you want the Lions to go as far as possible. Yes, it kind of pushes back some of the things you can officially do and meeting him in person and things like that. But number one, you get to see more of Ben Johnson. You get to see what he does in bigger and bigger games and potentially against the Kansas City Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills. And then you also know that, like, he checked that box of, like, okay, I did what I came here to do.
I do want to point out, and this is a credit to Dan Campbell, and to truly put a bow on today's program, perhaps it only enhances his case to be the coach of the year in the National Football League.
Dan.
There are
also Dan. Campbell.
There are in-house replacements already being onboarded in Detroit. Multiple times, Dan Campbell has gone out and he has said that linebackers coach Kelvin Shepard, here's a direct quote from 2023, I think Shep is a young, promising coach. He can be a coordinator one day, and I think he can be a head coach one day. He has that type of potential when the time is right. Another name to also keep an eye on there, Terrell Williams, who also, of course, is already on staff in Detroit. Another name that Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell have praised and have said that could be future coordinators. And so even if one of them was to follow Aaron Glenn wherever he goes, the other could remain and inherit that defense. I also think on the offensive side of the ball, I've noted a couple of times that my expectation would be that Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach, would go with Ben Johnson wherever he goes if he does take a head coaching job. But I do think there's a couple names on that staff, i.e. the passing game coordinator, Tanner Engstrand, who might be retained and become the offensive coordinator if Ben Johnson is to head out the door. And again, that makes the case for Dan Campbell. He doesn't have to worry. It's like the Kansas City Chiefs. You let L'Jarius Sneed walk in free agent, or you tag and trade him. I got a kick out of the Sunday Night Football Open, Lauren, when the offensive line for the Washington Commanders pops up, their heads and their schools and their name. 2/5 of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line from the last few years is now in Washington, and yet the Chiefs still won 15 games. And so if that is what is the benchmark of long-term sustained success in the NFL looks like, the Lions could be on their way to that. because they could already have names in house. And don't forget, Dennis Allen was a mentor to many of these gentlemen when they were in New Orleans, and he's out there as a free agent too.
Yeah, I think in theory that's great. Like, I'm glad, obviously, that Dan Campbell, because he knows, like, he knew last year after that people were looking at Ben Johnson. And when you have a team that's winning 15 games, people are looking at your coaches. That's just a part of what happens. But they went through 5 offensive coordinators in the 10 years before Ben Johnson. So it's not, in theory, it's great. But does that actually pan out and they're anywhere close to what Ben Johnson is going to be? Or can you find, it's not that easy to do that no matter how good of a developer and molder you are. There's some guys, and we see this in the NFL right now, you can name, the 5 head coaches that you'd want to have tomorrow. You would name the offensive coordinators that you want, and then there's the outliers of like, yeah, he's good, but would you trade for him tomorrow? Probably not. And so I think Dan Campbell's smart to be able to be like, hey, we have these guys sitting there that we do trust and that we've kind of been workshopping in, but that doesn't always mean it's going to transfer to be as successful.
No, it does not. But one successful former offensive lineman joins us now.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. Find the coolest cats in town at coolcatsjacks.com.
Leon, we often liken following the Jags to bad relationships that we've had in the past, right? And so I feel like in that vein,
I've had my few.
not going to go into any of your prior bad relationships, but
let's spell it.
I feel like when it comes to the Jags, so Phil Rauscher, when he got here a couple years ago, we were all told like he is a fantastic offensive line coach. And then eventually we look back and say, well, he wasn't a great offensive line coach, or at least the offensive line didn't play well for the past couple seasons. It's kind of like, when you do discover that X and you finally go through and you're like, oh, man, it's worse than I thought, all the transgressions against them. But going back to the offensive line, what do you think as far as getting a new offensive line coach in here?
Well, I mean, there has to be a new philosophy, because this philosophy here with this offensive line is that they pass protect and run block the same way. I mean, there's no get off, there's no knee bend, there's no acceleration off the ball. If you literally watch them, they position block. They position. It's so frustrating to me because I prided my game on getting on people, being physical, and getting to the next level. So whoever comes in here has got to change their mindset. They can't be, now don't get me wrong, now when it comes to pass protection, they're a lot better at pass protecting than they are run blocking. But if you're going to build the type of team that you want to build, you've got to have some aggression. You got to have some guys that are physical. I call them furniture movers, okay? You got to have some furniture movers. You got to get some guys that can move big men and get to the next level, that kind of stuff. It's just, unfortunately, we don't have anybody like that.
So you'd replace, do you think a coach can bring that out of guys, though?
You can. You absolutely can. It has to be a mindset. It has to be something that is a keynote day one. Day one. I mean, when I came to Pittsburgh, our coach, because Pittsburgh was a big physical run team, from day one, I mean, we're in shoots, we're doing bag and boards, we're hitting the heavy bag, everything relative to run blocking. And then our offensive coordinator, who was Ron Earhart, before the games, he would have not before the games, but like on that Saturday, we would have like a top 10 list. It'd be scripted. He would ask the offensive line the first 5 plays, because that sets the tempo. And, all we did in Pittsburgh, was zone, trap, counter, dive. And he would ask, hey, what do you like? First 5 plays. Then he would ask the quarterback. That's letting you know that we're a run-orientated offense that plays off play action. So you have to have somebody here that kind of brings that kind of aggression to the team.
Money aside, would you replace the left guard, the center, and the right guard if it was up to you?
Money-wise, I would replace no one's exempt, to be honest with you. Wait, listen. You just play Walker Little. All right. So
so the tackles are cemented here. But left guard, contracts aside.
Yeah, contracts aside. All 3 would have to go. I mean, they're grumpy old men right now. They are. And I would try to get some young blood in there.
Yeah,
some young enthusiastic blood in there. Not nothing wrong with grumpy old men. I was one at the time.
What's coming up, Leon?
Where we're going to talk, we're going to have a big board as far as who's on our big board as far as coaches go moving forward.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it. Love it. Narrowing it down.
We
are 9 days into this thing. It feels like it's been a month. All right. Thanks, Leon. All right. That's going to do it for us today. For Taylor Dahl, for Mia O'Brien, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow, but of course, don't go anywhere. XL Primetime and their big board of head coaches in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars comes up next.